Have you ever noticed how exhausted you feel after defending yourself? That deep, soul-level fatigue that settles into your bones after explaining, justifying, proving your worth to people who have already decided what they think of you. You've been fighting battles that were never meant to be won through words. You've been offering your heart as evidence in courtrooms where the verdict was written before you ever spoke. And tonight, as you sit in the quiet darkness of your room, perhaps you're finally ready to hear a truth that will change everything. There is a different way to move through this world, a way that requires no defense, no explanation, no desperate scrambling to prove your intentions. It's a path walked by those who understand that power isn't found in how well you can argue your case, but in how little you feel the need to present one at all. You are tired because you have been giving your energy to people who feed on your need to be understood. You are drained because you have been dancing to the rhythm of others' expectations, forgetting that you are the composer of your own symphony. But here, in this moment, you can choose to step off that stage. If this message finds you in the darkness of self-doubt, if these words resonate with the ache in your chest, then stay with me. Subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for you. For the part of you that knows there's a different way to live. The people in your life have become accustomed to your reactions. They've grown dependent on your explanations, your emotional availability, your constant need to make them understand you. Without realizing it, you've trained them to expect a performance every time they question you, doubt you, or challenge your worth. This isn't love, it's emotional dependence disguised as connection. True intimacy doesn't require you to constantly prove yourself. Real love doesn't feed on your anxiety or your desperate need to be seen as good, worthy, acceptable. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to meet the demands of others. But what happens when that mask becomes so heavy that we forget the face beneath it? What happens when we become so skilled at being what others need that we lose touch with who we actually are? Many of the relationships in your life aren't built on genuine connection, but on convenience. People stay close to you not because they love your authentic self, but because they love how you make them feel about themselves. They love your willingness to absorb their projections, to carry their emotional burdens, to always be the one who bends so the relationship doesn't break. Jung understood that we often love not the person themselves, but our projection onto them. And you, beautiful soul, have become a screen for everyone else's projections, their fears, their needs, their expectations of who you should be. But when you stop defending yourself, something profound happens. The projections have nowhere to stick. The emotional contracts become void. And in that space, you begin to discover what authentic relationship actually feels like. There is a difference between withdrawal born of fear and withdrawal born of power. When you stop defending yourself, you're not retreating, you're reclaiming your energy. You're choosing where to invest the precious currency of your attention. Jung spoke of psychic energy as a finite resource that gets depleted through constant reactivity. Every time you feel compelled to explain yourself, justify your actions, or prove your worth, you're hemorrhaging this vital energy. You're giving away pieces of your soul to people who never asked for your explanations in the first place. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote about the importance of mastering one's impulses. True freedom isn't found in always expressing what you feel, but in choosing when and how to respond. The person who feels compelled to react is enslaved by their own nervous system. The person who can choose silence is truly free. When you stop defending yourself, you're not being cold or disconnected. You're being strategic with your energy. You're recognizing that your peace of mind is more valuable than other people's opinions of you. You're understanding that your self-worth doesn't require external validation to be real. This withdrawal isn't about punishment or passive aggression. It's about self-preservation. It's about honoring the part of you that knows your truth doesn't need to be proven to be valid. Your character doesn't need to be defended to be real. Your worth doesn't need to be explained to exist. Silence is the most powerful response you can offer to those who try to provoke you into defending yourself. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of someone who has nothing to prove. It's the quiet confidence of a person who knows their worth isn't up for debate. People fear your silence because it takes away their power to control your emotional state. When you don't react, don't explain, don't justify, you're refusing to participate in their game. You're denying them the satisfaction of your emotional labor. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." When you stop defending yourself, you create mystery. You become unpredictable. And in that unpredictability lies tremendous power. Machiavelli also understood that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But I would add this: it is better to be respected than to be understood, because understanding often comes at the cost of your dignity, your energy, your inner peace. When you remain silent in the face of accusations, something shifts in the dynamic. The other person is forced to sit with their own projections. They must confront the possibility that their interpretation of you might be wrong. They begin to question themselves in ways they never did when you are busy defending yourself. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their insecurities back to them. And in that reflection, they often find not the villain they were looking for, but their own unhealed wounds staring back at them. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be the fox-silent, observant, strategic. When you stop defending yourself, something inside you begins to die. It's the death of the pleaser, the peacekeeper, the one who would rather sacrifice their own truth than face someone's disappointment or anger. And this death, though necessary, can feel like grief. You may find yourself feeling guilty for not explaining, anxious about what others might think, sad about relationships that can't survive your newfound boundaries. This is normal. This is the birth pang of your authentic self. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey toward becoming who you truly are. Separate from the roles and identities that others have assigned to you. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are." But he also understood that this privilege comes at a cost. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, Jung observed. The people who demand your constant explanations are often reflecting your own inner critic, the part of you that believes you must earn your place in this world through performance and proof. When you stop defending yourself, you're not just changing how you interact with others, you're healing your relationship with yourself. You're telling that inner critic that your worth is not contingent on others' approval. You're choosing self-compassion over self-justification. This transformation often happens in solitude, in the quiet moments when you're forced to sit with your own company and discover that you actually enjoy it. When you realize that the person you've been trying so hard to explain to others is someone worth knowing, worth protecting, worth honoring. There is a loneliness that breaks you, and there is a solitude that makes you whole. When you stop defending yourself, you may find that some people drift away. Let them. Their departure is not a loss. It's a revelation of what was never truly there. Nietzsche spoke of the Bermensch, the evolved human who has transcended the need for external validation. This isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming authentically human. It's about walking away from the herd mentality that says your worth must be constantly proven and validated by others. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly, Nietzsche wrote. When you stop defending yourself, you're learning to soar. You're discovering what it feels like to move through the world without the weight of everyone else's expectations dragging you down. This solitude isn't punishment, it's sacred space. It's the cocoon where your transformation happens. It's where you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. It's where you discover the difference between being alone and being lonely. Like a lion walking away from the herd, not in defeat, but in awakening, you're choosing the path of sovereignty over the comfort of belonging to those who never truly saw you anyway. You're trading the illusion of connection for the reality of self-respect. In this solitude, you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the voice that explains and justifies and pleads for understanding, but the quiet, steady voice that simply knows. A voice that doesn't need to defend itself because it speaks from truth, not fear. You've been living under contracts you never consciously signed. Silent agreements that say, I will be who you need me to be, so you won't leave me. I will explain myself until you're satisfied, so you won't think poorly of me. I will absorb your projections and carry your emotional burdens, so you'll call it love. These contracts are written in the language of your wounds, your fear of abandonment, your need to be good, your terror of being misunderstood. But contracts signed in fear are not legally binding to your soul. When you stop defending yourself, you're breaking these contracts. You're refusing to be responsible for managing other people's emotions about you. You're declining to participate in the exhausting theater of proving your worth to people who have already decided what they think. Jung understood this when he said, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Every time you choose not to defend yourself, you're choosing to become someone who values their inner peace more than others' opinions. Emotional manipulation thrives on predictability. When people know they can provoke a reaction from you, when they know you'll scramble to explain yourself, they have power over your emotional state. But when you become unpredictable, when you choose silence over defensiveness, you reclaim that power. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Jung wrote, the barrier isn't in your inability to defend yourself, it's in your belief that you need to. When you stop defending yourself, you don't lose yourself, you find yourself. In the space where explanations used to live, something new begins to grow. Call it dignity. Call it self-respect. Call it the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth isn't up for negotiation. This is your rebirth from the silence. This is where you reclaim all the energy you've been pouring into the bottomless pit of other people's opinions. This is where you remember that your truth doesn't need to be understood to be real. Your character doesn't need to be defended to be authentic. Your love doesn't need to be proven to be genuine. The world begins to shift when you stop reacting and start becoming. People who are used to your explanations suddenly have to confront the possibility that they never really knew you at all. Those who genuinely care will lean in closer, curious about this new version of you. Those who don't will reveal themselves through their frustration at your silence. You are not responsible for making others comfortable with your growth. You are not obligated to shrink yourself so others can feel bigger. You are not required to defend the person you're becoming to people who never truly saw the person you were. In this silence, you discover something profound. You are enough. Not because someone says so, not because you've proven it through explanations and justifications. You are enough because you exist, because you breathe, because you are a conscious being having a human experience, and that alone makes you worthy of respect, especially your own. So I ask you now, in the quiet of this moment, who are you when no one is watching? When there's no one to perform for, no one to convince, no one to defend yourself to? What part of you is waiting to be heard beneath the noise of all those explanations you've been giving? What would happen if you finally chose yourself fully, completely, without apology or defense? The answer to these questions isn't found in words. It's found in the silence that follows when you finally stop talking and start being. It's found in the peace that comes when you realize that the person worth knowing, the real you, needs no defense at all. You are already whole. You have always been enough. The only person who ever needed convincing was you.